Hold on. Whoops. Wrong. Now. Hello everyone. Sorry, somebody asking when the live starts, and I'm trying to this has a new thing for going live. So I need to check different things here. And let's see, this isn't showing me that. This isn't showing me that. Don't know why it's not showing me. There's that. Where are comments? Oh, here's comments in a totally different spot. That's weird. Sorry that I'm getting distracted right now by this new setup on Facebook for going live. So let me scroll to the bottom here. Hopefully that's where the new comments are. Christy saying, say something. Do you hear me? Hopefully you hear me. Let me know if you don't hear me, since this is, like I said, completely new setup on Facebook to go live. So, and I don't know how to use this. So, all right. To start, my name is Jax West. Hopefully you're hearing me. And who am I is a question that I am always asked. Thank you, Susanna. I am no relation to the Avery family. I am just a supporter, like all of you who watched Making a Murderer and saw this injustice. And I have been following the case ever since. We had scheduled this live. Christopher, one of the moderators here for Stephen Avery Project, he's the one that makes all the events. And it was suggested that we do a live today because today is Stephen's birthday. So this live was scheduled prior to yesterday's news, which we learned that sadly Dolores Avery passed away early yesterday morning. And I was notified by somebody messaging Stephen Avery Project and saying they said that Stephen wanted us to post this. And so what the statement from Stephen was, let's see, can I even get to it on this other page here and just read it to you directly so I don't have here, hold on. So, I can just read it exactly as I got it to you. But sorry, this is taking a long time to come up. Stephen Avery Project. I have to click on my other page here and waiting for that to load. Then I have to go into the inbox. And then we get lots and lots of messages. And especially now yesterday after Dolores, that we've gotten a lot of messages due to that. So it'll take some time scrolling down to find this message. All right. So here is what we were messaged yesterday. Sup, Tamra? I regret to inform everyone that Stephen's mother, Dolores Avery, passed away this morning. Stephen wants everyone to know how hurt he is from not being able to communicate with her before her passing. He believes that she died from a broken heart from not being able to speak to him. Please keep her and Stephen in your prayers. And then the person said, Stephen wanted to know if you would post that. So this live here on Stephen Avery Project today is going to be different than a lot of the lives that we do here. We have a subgroup, a closed group that is called MAM Gossip. And for those that don't know what that stands for, MAM stands for Making a Murderer. There are a lot of things in Stephen and Brendan's case that isn't in the documentary, obviously. And there's a whole lot of drama. And the typical person who watches Making a Murderer and then comes here to Stephen Avery Project, they don't know any of that stuff, nor do they care about it. And it's ugly. And so I keep that stuff usually just in MAM Gossip. We don't put it here on Stephen Avery Project because it's the drama. It's the drama. And most people, when all they do is watch Making a Murderer, they have all this sympathy for the Avery family, but they do not realize all is not what it seems. So this message coming to Stephen Avery Project, it's going to be because Stephen knows that I will put it out there. I do not currently talk to Stephen. I used to. I haven't talked to Stephen in probably 2 years. I used to talk to him on the phone. And I used to go visit him. Let me find my pictures with Stephen. There's one. These are 2 pictures from the same day. So you only need to see. So I have 2 pictures from visits with Stephen. And then Stephen had also mailed me once this picture that he liked, that he wrote, "Love my supporters," that he had wanted me to post on Stephen Avery Project. I do not get along with Stephen's family. I used to once upon a time. And once I saw the real picture, I'm not going to just praise the family because they are related to Stephen. Stephen is surrounded by people who don't have his best interests at heart. And they lied to Stephen. Here's another one. When is your live? Now. And what they had told Stephen was that I've got a very vulgar mouth, and I try not to swear on Facebook because they do censor. So I replace any nasty word with Smurf is what I try to do to curtail it. So, they said I was talking Smurf about his mother, which was not true. The family has used Dolores over the years to try and profit off of this case. And so they would say that Dolores needs a refrigerator or Dolores needs a washer dryer, something like that. And then they would say that they set up a GoFundMe and for supporters to put money in that GoFundMe. There has been so much sketchy things that have happened with any money, any GoFundMes that the family have organized. So what I had said then, that I say every time somebody asks me about something money related to Stephen, is if you want to put money towards this case in any way, shape, or form, you go to Kathleen Zellner's website, KathleenTZellner.com. She has a page for Stephen Avery on there, and then on that page, she has where you can put money directly into his commissary account or into an account that Kathleen has for his legal expenses. I've also told people, I'm sure you could send money to Kathleen Zellner and say, I want this to go to Dolores. I've just advised people to never give money to anybody in the Avery family. I don't care if they say, oh, this GoFundMe's got Dolores's name in it. Dolores didn't have internet. So it's not Dolores. Dolores isn't setting up a GoFundMe. Dolores isn't setting up a bank account to donate money to. So that's what I had said. I would never talk Smurf about Dolores. She is one of the only family members that I would not. I only talked to Dolores on 3 occasions, twice at her home and once on the phone. Dolores is somebody who I respected greatly. And she and Kim Ducat, Stephen's cousin, are the only 2 family members who have 100% behind Stephen the entire time. I would never say anything negative about Dolores. The rest of the family, absolutely I will. So, they told Stephen that I was talking Smurf about Dolores, and I have not heard from Stephen since. So when I get this message yesterday saying Stephen would like me to post that, and the person who sent it is a screen name that I recognized, as being somebody who's a moderator of one of the Stephen Avery groups out there. I made the post on Stephen Avery Project letting people know that this is what was sent to us. We do not know if it is true or not. But I knew this was a person that I know they actually talk to Stephen quite regularly. So I stayed with that hunch right then and posted it because it is what Stephen asked. And Stephen Avery Project is a support page for Stephen. Over the years, Stephen has reached out to me asking Stephen Avery Project to do different things. And when Stephen asks, I do it. For the most part. The only thing I have never done is Stephen had asked me to sell shirts. And then I had asked Kathleen Zellner, and she said not to do it. So I didn't. But even though I haven't talked to Stephen in a while, as I said, I knew this was a person who had contact with him. So I posted it. But I made it clear in the post that did not know if this was true. We're looking into it. We'll update when we know. I then emailed Kathleen Zellner and asked her for confirmation. But the confirmation that I got first was Kathleen Zellner tweeted. And I saw that tweet. And then Kathleen emailed me back and said, we've posted about it. So I got a whole lot of attitude yesterday from people, very upset that I would post that without knowing if it is true or not. I wasn't stating it as fact. I made it quite clear that did not know if it was true or not. But as I said, somebody that I know, now, and I don't know that person, but I know that person talks to Stephen, said Stephen wanted us to post it. So I did. So I wanted to explain that first. The other thing that people are asking about is in the TMZ article on Dolores's passing, they talked to Stephen's brother, Earl. Earl and I have a horrible relationship. I can show you messages of threats I have gotten from Earl Avery. Earl said to TMZ, first thing he had said is that Dolores has been in hospice for a couple of weeks or something like that, he said. I want to make it clear that Dolores has been in a home for at least a year, maybe more. I don't recall when the family put her in a home. So you can't hold me to that. Now, was Earl saying that to try to make it out like she had only been someplace for a couple of weeks? Or was she in a home and then moved to hospice for those last few weeks? I don't know. I just know that most everything that comes out of Earl's mouth is a lie. So it is, you gotta kind of try and figure out what it is. So he said that she's been in hospice for a few weeks and that Stephen hasn't spoken to his mother in 8 or 9 months. So these are things that if you wanted to do the deep dive on, are all in our subgroup MAM Gossip when it happened. They put Dolores in a home and then tried to keep Stephen from even being able to talk to her. Stephen was becoming frantic about wanting to talk to his mother. The home that she was moved into Kayla Avery worked at. You'll remember Kayla, that is Earl's daughter, who lied about Brendan, saying he was crying and confessed things to her. And then she took it back on the stand. That's Kayla. Kayla, I know, adored her grandma. And that Dolores adored Kayla. Dolores' face would light up and she would giggle. You know, Kayla just has this high energy. And so Kayla is one of the few people who really truly cared about Dolores. Other people used Dolores for personal gain. Stephen, in not being able to talk to Dolores, was taking his frustration out on the home that she was in and Kayla. So Kayla then filed with the court harassment against Stephen and wanted a restraining order and wanted him kept away from the home. And at that time, Kayla and various other family members were posting in their family fan group that horrible things about Stephen. They were really, really bashing Stephen. And then that is when it was said by one of them, I want to say it's Carla, Stephen, another one of Stephen's nieces, who calls herself the family spokesperson, had said that they were going to then take Dolores out of that home and put her in another one and not tell Stephen where she was and not let Stephen have any contact with her. An explanation they would give is that so Dolores had dementia, and they said, you know, she wasn't aware of things, and they felt that a phone call, you know, she wouldn't know who Stephen was, that it would be difficult to have Dolores talk on the phone. They said that Stephen was being demanding about when he would make these calls. And I just call bull smurf on all of it. All right. I understand that we do not know the level of her dementia. And maybe she didn't even know who Stephen was. Stephen is in prison, so he can't say for sure he's going to get the phone at such and such a time. Even if he says, I'm going to call you Wednesday at 5 p.m., something could come up and he doesn't get the phone. So when Stephen is able to call, come on, just let him talk to his mom. And you could put it on speakerphone and just have him talk to his mom and say whatever. And, you know, obviously it's not going to be like their usual phone calls if Dolores doesn't have her faculties. But Stephen would have at least been able to say things to her and hear her. And instead, the family cut off his contact. And posted mean, nasty things about Stephen. And go to court for harassment and trying to get a restraining order. So this is the family that I don't usually say these things on Stephen Avery Project because most of you watching this, you don't follow all that stuff. And so if you hear somebody saying something negative about the Avery family, you know, I'm going to get a ton of hate for this, for how dare I speak ill of the family. But trust me, there's so much out there that this family has done over the years. My sympathies are with Stephen and Alan. I am so upset that Stephen was not able to have any contact with his mother for the last year. That is all Stephen wanted, was to take care of his mom. That was his number one priority. So even while he's been in prison, he has been the driving force to make sure she's taken care of. At one time, paying Kayla to look after Dolores at her home, until the family accused Kayla of stealing money from Dolores and firing her. And it turns out it was another family member that stole that money from Dolores, which was easy to do because Dolores has had okay, somebody just messaged me that Earl had posted January 17th saying Dolores was in a home. So she's been in a home at least since January. Dolores, it has been known for quite some time that she was in early onset dementia. And it wasn't something that was made public. And understandably so, that's family business. But it made it very easy for somebody to take advantage of Dolores. And they have been doing so for a long time. The last time I visited Dolores, I had brought her money, cash, and that was all pulled together by the different moderators from Stephen Avery Project. And then I also had a Visa card, gift card, that I had gotten for something or another for like $50. And so when I visited Dolores, I had given her that money in that card. And Dolores had a notebook that she was then writing the names and the money that she got so she could remember it. And I remember when I had talked about that, the family then accused me of lying, that I didn't give Dolores any money. But you can see in the picture of Dolores and I, you can see the gift card on the table and you can see the notebook where she was writing the stuff, which it doesn't matter to me if people believe me or not. But I visited Dolores 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago. And I knew then you could tell. And Stephen has just wanted his mom taken care of. And she was mostly forgotten about by her family, unless they need to trot her out for supporters or fans. Kayla had told me 4 years ago, Kayla told me that her grandmother has never had air conditioning. And that she was really upset. And that she was telling her dad, Earl, and her Uncle Chuck, who are supposed to be taking care of Dolores, about that she should have air conditioning. And they didn't care. So I had said to Kayla that I have an air conditioner here, a window unit, doing nothing. And so I will bring it up there and give it to Dolores. Chuck and Earl then gave Dolores air conditioning a week later. So it wasn't until I was making a public stink about it and upset that Dolores did not have air conditioning. So I will handle it, that then the family would do something. So I am extremely upset for Stephen that he did not get to talk to his mother for the last year. She wasn't it's a decline. So they cut him off long ago. And I'm sure Dolores wasn't happy about that either. And so, like, that is the comment that Stephen says. He believes that she died from a broken heart from not being able to speak to him. It's unbelievably tragic. And it is the one thing that all of us unite on, is that we wanted Stephen reunited with his mom. Dolores lost her son the first time when he's just, what was he, 22, 23? And then was in prison for 18 years for Penny Bernstein that he didn't do. Then he was only free for 2 years until they took him again. And today is Stephen's birthday, and he is 59. 22 to 59. People who are asking me about Sandy. Sandy is the one who lied to Stephen about me and has told Stephen a bunch of lies. And that's all I'm going to say about that at this moment. Alan. How is Alan? Stephen said to TMZ, that is now his worry, that his dad won't live to see Stephen freed. He's, every day you get older and health declines. So I have not heard anything on Alan's health or how he's feeling after the death of his wife. But it's just one more tragic thing in Stephen's life. That now his mom is gone and he can't wrap his arms around her. When I used to talk to Stephen, it was always, when he's home, he's going to, live with his mom. He was going to leave Wisconsin and he was taking his parents with him. His mom is the only consistent in his life. The only one he knows is honest and true. I'm angry. I am so angry and upset for Stephen. And that the loss of his mother is compounded with his own family keeping Dolores away from him for 8 to 9 months. How many zeros is that? I mean, no money can replace the loss of his mother. Okay, so a couple of the other questions that are popping up right now. The funeral. I have heard from multiple different people, some that say arrangements could be made for Stephen to attend. It would be costly for Stephen to attend, and they typically put that on the family, which no big deal, because I know, I'm sure, well, I would hope people wouldn't give the money to the family, but you would give it to Kathleen Zellner if there was, it's going to cost this much for Stephen to be able to, even if it was just that he got to go and have a private moment with his mother and then have to go back. You know, that he wasn't able to stay for any services. And then there's been other people who have said that Wisconsin doesn't do that, and there would be no chance for Stephen to go. You have to know that it is such a high risk for Stephen. You know, there's people who believe he is guilty and would want to hurt him. So there would be such a huge security detail. And then there's going to be press that is clamoring to get to him. And then there'll be fans that are clamoring to get to him. It would be a circus. Now, could something be done on the down low? Sure, absolutely could. But do you really think Wisconsin or Manitowoc would do anything to be of a benefit to Stephen? So I do not feel that there's going to be any opportunity for Stephen to be able to say goodbye to his mother in person. And it is so unbelievably sad. A member of the family in the past has sold pictures to TMZ. And when I saw yesterday TMZ's story about Dolores's passing, I'm putting it out there now, and I know the family will watch this video. But if I see TMZ has a picture of Dolores in her casket, I'm going to know that the family, for the third time, sold a picture to TMZ, and that's disgusting. So let's hope that doesn't happen. Dolores didn't like her picture being taken. She didn't like being trotted out for the fans. I'm sure she doesn't want a picture at her funeral or wake. And I just instantly jumped to that, knowing that Barb has sold pictures to TMZ not once but twice in the past. People have also told me that Barb is saying that she's not telling Brendan that Dolores passed away. If Brendan were my son, I would be scheduling the first visit I could and go and tell him in person. That is not something you can hide from Brendan. How many people already yesterday wrote letters and cards and were sending them out to Stephen and Alan? Stephen and Brendan. You can't keep that from him. It's not going to be kept from him. And I'm sure it's also on the news in Wisconsin. Why would you not tell him that? Why would you not be dropping everything and going to tell Brendan in person? Don't tell him on the phone. Go tell him in person what happened to his grandma. It's just another thing that infuriates me. I understand that it's a hard thing to do, and you don't know, why would you want to upset Brendan? But this is life and death. So he needs to be told. And you do that in person. I talked about this on the live yesterday. Another one of Kathleen Zellner's cases, Melissa Kaluzinski. When her grandmother died, her father and I surprised her, went down to the prison, and told her in person that her grandma died. It's just not something you do on the phone. And it should be the priority to go tell them. Somebody asked, how do we know this? It's because apparently Barb's made a post about it. And it's been passed on. 2 different people now have told me that. So today's scheduled live was supposed to be this big happy birthday to Stephen. And now we've got this horrible tragedy. And today, I'm just mad. Seeing that TMZ story and saying that Brendan didn't get to talk to his mother for 8 to 9 months, and knowing it's the family who kept Stephen from her, that they accused him of harassment and tried to get a restraining order that they lost. I'm just mad. Yes, Sonia, Melissa's dog died then too, Oreo. Speaking of Melissa, something I typically don't do here on Stephen Avery Project, because anytime I bring up another case, people will say, what does that have to do with Stephen? But Melissa Kaluzinski is another person who is wrongfully accused. She has been in prison for 12 years for a murder she didn't commit. Kathleen Zellner is her attorney. My birthday was recently, and Melissa had sent me a birthday card. And if you haven't noticed, I've got a lot of tattoos, right? And I've got a lot of flowers and butterflies. And one of Melissa's favorite butterflies is a monarch. Melissa loves to draw. I have been telling Melissa for years, I've got this empty space left on my arm. My arms are pretty much all done, except for this space here. And I said I would hold this space for her, draw me a monarch, and I'll have it tattooed there. Well, for my birthday, she sent me not 1, but 3 drawings she did. That one. This one. And then this one that you can't see that well. But I had sent her a book on all different butterflies years ago that, she wanted to be able to draw other butterflies. what she has written under this one is, so I really tried with this one. It's supposed to be more white where blue is at, but I did my best. This is a Melissa Blues. So the name of this butterfly is a Melissa butterfly. So I'm going to try to get all three of these tattooed here for Melissa. So pardon me. And Melissa Kalusinski, Kalusinski. You can find her on Kathleen Zellner's page, and you can find links to where you can read about Melissa's case. And her case has been covered by 48 Hours twice. The episodes are called Blaming Melissa and Fight for Melissa. I just visited Melissa 2 weeks ago. I just scheduled to go visit her in 2 weeks. But look into the Melissa case. She's got a Facebook page. So pardon me for the little plug for Melissa Kalusinski, but she's a sweet, sweet girl. %100% innocent. And just like in Stephen's case, Kathleen is just waiting for the court's response. And that's another question we get a lot of questions on is, where is Stephen's case now? And there will be people who will talk smurf about Kathleen, like, oh, she's not doing a good job, or maybe that Kathleen just doesn't care, or Kathleen is going to leave the case. Not true. Kathleen has stated it typically takes 15 years from when she takes a case to free somebody who is wrongfully convicted. And she took Stephen's case in 2016. And our system here in the States is awful. And so in order to get back into court, you have to show new evidence. But you have to get... No, Jesse, I did not do the live for my birthday. You have to show new evidence. And then the judge has to approve it to do that. But when you're going back to the same corrupt judge... You know, judges have egos. Are they really going to go, my bad, I ruled wrong on this. Let's have a do-over. So Kathleen has so much to show Stephen's innocence. And I am sure we haven't seen all of it. She's not going to show all of her cards. That woman does her homework. You know, look at the recreations she does. She does not take a case unless she believes the person is innocent. She doesn't have to. She did it once, that she didn't know when she took the case, and then learned that the guy did kill people, and said she would never do it again. She knows Stephen is innocent. It just takes a long time with our stupid system to right these wrongs, if you're able to correct them at all. So Kathleen is doing everything she can. But right now, it's left in the hands of the judge, where there is no time limit for how long they have to consider what she has presented them to get Stephen a new trial. So we're just waiting. I know it sucks. Imagine being Stephen. And Kathleen had just tweeted a couple days ago that Stephen was depressed and was asking people to send him letters and cards to try and boost his spirits. And of all the times when I used to talk to Steven, I was always amazed at how positive he was. After everything that's been done to this man, that he always felt he was getting out right around the corner. And to hear her say that he's depressed, I knew it had to be bad. Because he was never depressed. Every time I talked to him on the phone or went to visit him, there'd be smiling and laughing. So we're stuck waiting. And it's not you who is separated from your loved ones. It's Steven. So I understand your frustration and your anger. But all you can do is show Steven your love and support and try to boost his spirits. Christopher pinned a comment on here on how you can write to Steven. Please do. Send him a card. Send him a letter. I always tell people, though, don't write to him just with the hopes of getting a letter back and then get upset with him if you don't hear back from him. Steven has been burned by so many people. So he doesn't write back to everyone. And he's not the best writer. So, but you do it because you just want to boost his spirits. So you write him a letter. You tell him your name. Tell him where you live. Tell him about yourself, your family, your pets. Steven obviously really likes cars. You can talk to him about if you're into cars. And then something that Steven was learning about while in prison is like living off the grid, so solar energy and all that stuff. He's all interested in those kinds of things. So you could talk to him about that, and fishing, and I don't want people writing to him and just saying, I feel so bad for you. Nothing on the down low. I mean, you can say your thoughts are with him and those kinds of things, but try and keep it more upbeat. And Steven is also, he's really funny. And yes, he has a low IQ, right? He's smarter than you would think, and he's really pretty funny. He's got a good sense of humor. So joke with him. Try and make him laugh. But please, yeah, send him something of encouragement. Always write your return address also on your letter, because the prison opens the letters and they just rip open the envelope and your return address could be destroyed. So if Steven were to write you back, you have a better chance if your return address is put there. And then you can't make your letter like something a junior high girl would send to a boy, so no stickers and glitter and stuff glued and all of that. I have written Steven letters by hand. I have written him letters that I typed here on the computer and printed out and sent him, where then I was able to paste screenshots of things that I wanted to send him right into the letter. You can send pictures. I don't know what the limit is on how many pictures you can send. So just don't send a whole lot of pictures. But please, yeah, send him some support, because for Kathleen to make that tweet, and for people who don't have Twitter, because I don't like Twitter, anytime Kathleen tweets about Stephen's case, we share it here. So never fear on that, because we've had people say, how can I follow her if I don't have Twitter? We share it here on Facebook. But for her to tweet that the other day, that he was depressed and could people reach out to him, please do. Because it's something that when I would talk to him, he would want to know how many followers are on Stephen Avery Project. And I would talk to him about that, because I'm like, Stephen, I know you have no concept of how big you are and how people all over the world support you. And I said to Stephen once, and so here's the thing of how he's funny. I said to him, Stephen, you could cut your hair and put your hair in a baggie, and these fans would buy it. That's how crazy it is with, the people all over the world interested in Stephen. And he said, there's no way I want my DNA going out there like that. And I was like, oh God, yeah, good point there. So yeah, he's a really funny guy. But it's a sad time with that. How long ago was it that Kathleen last filed? I don't even remember. I can't keep track of when the last filing was. Here's the obituary I was just sent for Dolores. Let me click on it. Christopher just sent it to me. Christopher, could you post the link in here too? In this, so it says, in loving memory of Dolores A. Avery, 1937 to 2021. This is a guest book, so people could also post something here. So it says, Dolores Anna Avery, age 83, a lifelong resident of Two Rivers, Wisconsin, passed away peacefully Thursday, July 8, 2021, in the care of Hamilton Health Services. She was born August 20, 1937, in Two Rivers, daughter of the late Edwin and Anna Scherer. Dolores married Alan Avery March 13, 1954, and they shared 67 years of marriage. She was a loving wife and proud mother and grandmother, devoting her entire life to the care of her family. She had a kind and generous nature, always put others before herself. Dodo, D-O-D-O, loved her coffee and donuts. She always had a 5-course meal on the table for her family every night. Dolores was a talented cook and baker, famous for her Mexican spaghetti and steak with fried noodles. She looked forward to her shopping trips and dinners at Bud Williams. She was a strong woman and a survivor of cancer. Her memory will live on through those she leaves behind. Dolores is survived by her husband, Alan, 4 children, Charles Avery, Stephen Avery Sr., Barbara Scott Toddock, and Earl Avery. Many grandchildren and great-grandchildren. She was preceded in death by her brother Lloyd Rose, his wife, Scherer. Private services will be held by her immediate family at a later date. Dolores's family would like to extend their gratitude to the staff at Hamilton Health Services for their amazing care and compassion. services and gatherings. It's a private service at newcomer cremations, funerals, and receptions, 340 South Monroe Avenue, Green Bay, Wisconsin. And then where you can add your condolences at the bottom for Dolores. Yes, Sonia, she and Alan got married when Dolores was quite young. Hmm. And then there's a picture of Dolores, and she's holding a koala bear. What a life. Yeah, Joe. Haunt them good. They've got blood on their hands. More than just Teresa's. That's the thing that always bothers me is when guilters will say that we're disgracing Teresa Halbach's memory by supporting Stephen. And it is the exact opposite. We are the ones that truly want justice for Teresa Halbach. And who's to say that whoever is responsible for Teresa Halbach's disappearance and assumed death, that they haven't done it to others? And now Stephen has lost his mother. Trisha is asking, does Stephen get to speak with Alan? I would assume he can call Alan up in Crivets. That's where Alan spends most of his time, at their vacation home in Crivets. Dolores stayed at the salvage yard, and Alan stayed up in Crivets. That's where, when you watch Making a Murderer, you see when Alan walks out to the garden, and so that's up in Crivets, and that's Alan's happy place. So whether or not Stephen has talked to Alan lately, I don't know that, but there should be no reason why he couldn't call Al. Natalie, I hope it isn't made into a circus, because Dolores would not want that. I had gone to the salvage yard. This was before the very first rally that was in Manitowoc, that I organized, by the way. That's a whole nother drama. So I was up at the salvage yard, and one of the things that I really wanted to film and show people is that there is no possible way that the bus driver could have seen Teresa Halbach at the red van that Barb was selling. So my husband, Jeff, was at the mailboxes where the bus stop was with the camera. And I walked down in front of what was Barb's trailer, but now is where Chuck Avery lives. And so I was standing where the red van had been. And Jeff was first zoomed in on me. So you saw me, and I was wearing a bright orange shirt. I was carrying a camera, and so you saw me, and then he zoomed back out on what your eye would see if you were down there at the bus stop and you couldn't tell anything about me, color of my shirt, that there's a person even standing there, nothing. It's like a quarter of a mile away. And when we were done filming that, I was walking back down to where the mailboxes were because that's where everybody else was. Because Jeff owns a print shop and he had printed new signs for the family, and so Jeff and Chuck were putting the signs up there. And so I was walking down there, and Dolores pulled up to me. She was driving around in her golf cart, and she had asked me, yep, snooze, I got married a week ago, 2 weeks ago. Oh, somebody just told me that Sandy is at Waupun. So, while I do not have good feelings for Sandy because she has lied to Stephen about me, I'm happy that somebody that Stephen cares about is going to see him. So, I will give Sandy props for that one. But so Dolores had pulled up in her golf cart, and so we were chatting. And so the rally was coming up. Like I said, it was the very first rally. And she was telling me Stephen really wants her to go. And she's like, I don't want to go. That she's got no interest in going whatsoever. She doesn't want to be around all those people. She's not comfortable around those people, and that she was having a harder and harder time getting around. And I had said to her at that time, well, we can rent you like a wheelchair or something if you want, because she said she was going only because Stephen wanted her to, but she didn't want to go. So that's another reason why that if her services were made into this big circus, it would really upset me, because I know it's not what Dolores would want. Absolutely would not want. And I advise you all, and thank you everybody for the congratulations, but also Jeff and I have been together for 8 years prior to getting married, so it was just making it legal, basically. But thank you everybody. Services are supposed to be for the living, but it still shouldn't be made into a circus. And if somebody wanted to, I know people had talked about flowers or whatever, that's a waste. And I am sure Dolores would prefer that you put money on Stephen's account. So the money you were going to spend on flowers, just put it in Stephen's commissary, or give it to Kathleen Zellner to go towards legal costs. And you go to Kathleen's website, go on the tab she has for Stephen Avery, and she's got links right there on how you can put money directly on his commissary or sending it directly to her. So, maybe here's an idea, Christopher, if you're watching, because this is Christopher's cup of tea of designing things. A lot of the things that we do here on Stephen Avery Project is we plan for the day, eventually Stephen's going to be free. It may not be tomorrow. It may not be for 10 years. But eventually he will be free. And so we want Stephen Avery Project to be a place that Stephen can come to and see the support he had. So, Christopher, maybe you should design a picture and we start a thread on Stephen Avery Project and we will put it on the Stephen Avery Project group and MAM Gossip as well. But Stephen Avery Project, this one here, this is the public page. This is where everybody can come. You don't have to be a member to be here. And have people post their condolences and pictures, flowers, whatever, all in one thread for Dolores. I know Christopher made something already. There was a thread saying, rest in peace, Dolores. But this one could be more that, like, if you wanted to make a sign and take a picture of a sign, or, you wanted to hold up flowers, like if you were to send flowers to the services, something like that. That then when Stephen is home, he would be able to go back and see that. So I'll have Christopher start something for that and say where you're from so he can again see how it is all around the world. It can be a picture of you holding the flowers. You don't want to be in the picture, you don't have to be in a picture. Be creative. And, so that can be some kind of capsule for him for when he goes home. What home? Where is Stephen gonna go? His mom won't be there. And it's just so sad. It's no matter how you feel about anything, the people in this case, whatever, that's just the saddest thing ever. You, whether you're a guilter or believe in his innocence, there's no denying, if you watched Making a Murderer, that you saw the bond between Stephen and Dolores. Did they have spats? Absolutely. You don't get along with everybody all the time. Imagine the frustrations of being wrongfully convicted, not once but twice. It's just the one thing Stephen focused on was going home, getting out, and being with his mom. There was nothing else for him. That was his focus. Oh, Joe, that is a lovely creative idea. Well beyond my skill set, but that is lovely. Absolutely, Natalie. Because, yes, there are jail calls. We've listened to them. We've done live videos where we started covering a lot of the calls, and tempers flared sometimes. But you knew Stephen and Dolores loved each other. And for the rest of Stephen's life, his mother died the day before his birthday. It's just beyond tragic. I just Ugh, it's horrible. So I think I've blabbed enough for today. We here at Stephen Avery Project, our thoughts will always be with Stephen. We always will stand in support of Stephen. We know he is innocent. We know that Kathleen Zellner is doing everything she can to free him. We know the evidence, the science, the facts are all on Stephen's side. It's just a matter of getting the corrupt legal system This is why, putting on my political hat, it is important to vote for all the different levels, no matter if they're running for dog catcher, governor. A lot of times people are running in those smaller roles because they want to work their way up that ladder. And so they want to get to the place where they're going to decide who's going to be a judge, who's going to be a state's attorney. You need to know where those people stand on wrongful convictions and on our criminal justice system. Pay attention. Elect people who care. We're not going to get into a politics pissing contest here on this side or that side. We're being general right here. But look at what happens. You've got Governor Evers now there in Wisconsin. Let me also, since we're on this subject, I know I was just going to go, but squirrel. West Memphis 3. You can watch that HBO on demand. It is called Paradise Lost. There's 3 episodes of that. They end up taking an Alford plea. That is a question we get all the time here is, why don't they do the Alford plea? Why can't they get the Alford plea? Kathleen has stated before, you take an Alford plea if you're guilty and just trying to get out, or you're on death row. And that's what happened for West Memphis 3 is Damian Eccles, who was represented by Brendan's current attorney, Laura Nyrider. He was on death row, and it was killing him. And Jason Baldwin, one of his co-defendants, didn't want the Alford plea, because an Alford plea is you're admitting you're guilty while still saying you're claiming guilt while still saying you're innocent. It's just this little technicality crap, so you can't hold the state liable for what they've done to you. Jason Baldwin didn't want to say he was guilty when he wasn't. He would stay in prison and keep fighting it. But he knew, and it's one of the parts in Paradise Lost where I cry every time I've seen it. But he says they were killing Damian. Damian's the one who got death sentence. The other two, Jesse Miskelly and James Baldwin, did not. And it was an all or nothing. They all had to take it, or they all don't get it. And so he only took that Alford plea because Damian Eccles was going to die. And Damian has long-term effects from being on death row to this day. It destroyed his body, his sight. So Kathleen, there's going to be no Alford plea for Stephen. There's no claiming he's guilty. He's innocent. And they're going to continue fighting it. Then we get people who ask, why doesn't the president do something? We had something with, our last president, and now with the current president, people keep saying, why doesn't the president do something? It's because it is a state case. Presidents can only do something on a federal case. This is a state case. So they cannot be pardoned. The only person who can give them clemency is the governor, because the governor governs the state. It is a state issue. And Stephen is not looking for clemency. He is still fighting because he is innocent. Brendan is another case. Brendan would take clemency. I believe they filed for clemency for Brendan. And yes, they filed for clemency for Brendan, and the governor denied it. So for those who ask, why doesn't the president do something? President can't. Only the governor can. And Stephen is not asking for it. Brendan did and was denied. All right. And so to close, again, Stephen's case, we're just waiting. No time limit. We're just waiting. And as soon as something happens in Stephen's case, we bring it to you as soon as we can. We paid the money with the clerk's office, and we get the filing, and we read it live for you all. So, and if Kathleen tweets something, we post it. So Stephen Avery Project is the place that if something happens in Stephen's case, we bring it to you immediately. And then if you want to know some of the in-depth things that happen in this case, that is our closed group, MAM Gossip. That stands for Making a Murderer. I also have a Facebook page and group called Justice with Jax, like you see behind me. That's where we discuss other cases. So if there's any other injustice, not just wrongful conviction, that you want to discuss, it's where I also talk about Melissa Kaluzinski's case. Why did Kathleen take on Stephen and not Brendan? Wasn't asked to take on Brendan's case, and it's a conflict for her to represent them both. Brendan already had Stephen Drizzen and Laura Nyrider, who he is perfectly happy with. So they've been with Brendan way longer than Kathleen came on for Stephen's case. So that's why. There's another case of Kathleen's, Ryan Ferguson. So, and that's a documentary you can watch called Dream Killer. Ryan Ferguson is the Stephen in that case that his friend said he dreamed that he and Ryan killed this guy. So the other guy confessed for whatever reason and said they did it, and Ryan goes to prison for it, and Kathleen frees Ryan. The other guy's still in prison. Kathleen doesn't represent him. And so that's why also, because you're co-defendants, it doesn't mean if one goes free, the door opens and the other one goes. Because Ryan Ferguson has been free how long now? And yes, Stacy, Charlie Erickson, he's still in. And there's a Facebook page for him that I believe it's his mother runs. So you can stay up to date with what's happening in Charles Erickson's case. He does dog training, so there's always lots of, so they train dogs for people to adopt. So even if Kathleen were to free Stephen, it doesn't mean Brendan goes free. And the difference in both of those cases is Charles and Brendan confessed. Whether or not we know it's coerced and phony confessions, They confessed. And that's harder. Sonia says Laura only addressed Brendan in a tweet about Dolores. Oy. There's a clear divide between the two. And that's something I'm not going to get into now, but we've talked about before in MAM Gossip about there are two different camps there for sure. But yeah, so the Ryan Ferguson case is another one of Kathleen Zellner's, and one confessed, one always asserted their innocence. Ryan Ferguson is now free, and Charlie Erickson is still in prison. So, yeah. But Kathleen has represented, she's freed how many? 21? Is that her number now? 21 people? But if you go to her website, she's got pages for her high profile cases. There's also the Riley Fox case that I, a couple months ago, went to the memorial for Riley Fox, because that is another one here in Illinois. The one with the 3 boys, it's called Paradise Lost. It was on HBO. So there are 3 documentaries on it that have been updated throughout the years, and it was due to that documentary is what helped free Damien, James, and Jesse. So, and if it wasn't for Making a Murderer, Stephen's case wouldn't, and I realize he is still in prison, but it still wouldn't have progressed to where it is now if there wasn't Making a Murderer to shine the light on this injustice. So, but I will remind you all that, you know, Stephen's case is not the only case of injustice. There are so many. Something I just watched on Netflix that I just finished yesterday or the day before is called Trial 4. It came out last year, so I know I am late to it. Another wrongful conviction. So many. So thank you to the people who make these documentaries to show the truth. And no, it is not a one-sided documentary. The Making a Murderer documentarians really showed you both sides. It's not their fault that everything points to Stephen's innocence. That's just facts. So, all right, I'm going to go. I do not know when our next live will be. We do not have anything scheduled. We'll just keep monitoring the situation. Oh gosh, the Richard Glossop case too. Yes. Kat. Well, they eventually dropped that. Paula says, look up the Jeff Bopry case in New England. In New England? Is that what it is? Or Nebraska? Ugh. So many cases. So that's why I have Justice with Jax too. So it's a place that we can freely talk about all these other cases and not muddy up Stephen Avery Project with other cases. But I will always plug Melissa Kaluzinski because that girl's got a piece of my heart. And needs support. Nebraska. Thank you, Paula. All right, so I'm out. Who just messaged me now in case I need to? Okay. Thank you, Natalie. So just stay tuned here to Stephen Avery Project or jump into MAM Gossip. And in MAM Gossip, feel free to fire away with all your questions. And if I or one of the moderators aren't around to answer them, there are plenty of people who have been around this case for years and years who will be able to answer all your questions. Closing with, Stephen, if you ever watch this, I'm happy birthday, and I am so sorry. How do you put it into words? I'm just so sorry.